Now, if you cultivate these 4 qualities of being reliable, the action of reliability actually moves you closer to meeting the most meaningful and significant love needs and wants of your spouse.
So what makes my husband feel really loved is when I take responsibilities off his plate and get my hands a little dirty, like for say, weed the garden. But for me, I really need deep and genuine compliments that make me feel seen by him and really known. So here's what makes this challenging. Even if you're one of the rare people who married someone who has the same needs as you, odds are they still want their needs expressed in different ways. We all are just so different.
For some reason, I just require a lot of sleep and he doesn't. And so sometimes if we have free time and I'm like, a nap sounds really great right now. He's like, no, I want to go outside. I'm like, oh, but I'm tired.
She likes for me to make sure that I notice and tell her, like, I noticed you vacuumed upstairs, or I noticed you cleaned the bathroom. And so she needs that kind of stuff versus me. I need affirmation from her, like, what a great job you did fixing something.
I need someone to listen, and he doesn't. He needs more physical touch than I do.
I like to have my alone time where I like to just kind of focus on things of my interest, and for Ashlyn, she doesn't normally have that much alone time, so she's working 2 jobs right now, and every second that she gets away from that, she likes to spend it with me.
Tori really thrives by being built into and being affirmed, and that's not a natural thing for me. I've always seen myself as a leader, but I'm more of a lead by example. I am not a big fan of coaching up.
I don't like to let a conflict linger, so I want resolution. I want it done, and I like to make sure that we say I'm sorry or something like that. And she's more of a, I'm just done with it.
It'll fix itself.
Yeah. So,
go to bed, wake up tomorrow, it'll be good.
So that's why we're totally qualified to be in this video.
You know, we are so different.
Yeah, and the challenge is to not let those differences frustrate us, but to appreciate your spouse's unique needs and ultimately find meaningful ways to meet them.
And to successfully meet those needs and wants of your spouse, you really need to become the connoisseur of your partner.
Yeah, and a connoisseur is an expert, like an expert of fine wine. They know everything there is to know about wine. They can just, take a sniff and they can tell you how old the wine is, what vineyard the grapes were grown in, who manufactured the wine. But a connoisseur is not just an expert, they love the wine. So you need to be an expert on what meets the needs of your spouse, and you need to love it.
Jesus worded it, as we know, to be the golden rule. In the Gospels, Jesus said, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. And what this really means in marriage is to treat your spouse with the same thoughtfulness, personal attention, and care that you'd like them to show you. However, some have mistaken the golden rule to be, go do for your other as you would like that person to do for you.
Yeah, and there are countless books written about the importance of stepping out of your own comfort zone of loving and meeting the unique needs of your partner as your partner desires them to be met. Even the scriptures written 2,000 years ago emphasize that husbands should make their wives feel loved, while the emphasis for wives is to make their husbands feel respected. And still today, that captures a real common difference in the meaningful needs between many men and women.
So we're going to provide you a jump start on this, a top 10 list of relationship activities that contribute to a close relationship and how you meet each other's needs. But then we really want each of you to make your own top 10 list and give it to your spouse so that they can better become a connoisseur of you. And if you want to have a little fun with this, try to come up with what you believe is your partner's top 10 list and then give it to them and see how accurate it is. But you're not allowed to get defensive if they make some corrections, and please, when you make those corrections, be gracious.
But listen, The bonds of your relationship continue to grow and rebound as you stay in the know. Keep refreshing your trust picture and practice being the connoisseur of your partner, actively showing those 4 aspects of care. Are you consistent? Are you available? Are you responsive and engaged? And while continuing to meet the most meaningful love needs of your spouse.
Now, before we conclude, I want to go back to our first session and just put all of this together with those 3 laws of relationships and then provide some steps for how you can have a huddle together in your relationship. If you remember, the first law of your relationship was called the law of diminishing returns. It just said that relationships have an insatiable appetite. So even after you have a full day of good times together, it won't be long before something more is wanted. And by the way, life has a way of draining and unbalancing your relationship. This is just normal.
So law number 2 was the law of slow leaks. And this says that the danger is not becoming unbalanced, but staying unbalanced. So you may do a few of the activities on that top 10 list, but you can hardly do all of them regularly. And before you know it, you're in a rut of only taking care of about 3 of the 10. This is okay for a while, but it begins to leak the vitality of your relationship and create vulnerabilities.
So the third law of your relationship says you have to have frequent realignments. You need to have a plan first for identifying where you are a little out of balance, what you have not been able to get to or what has been drained, what are those just can't get to areas of your relationship, and to take active steps to rebalance those imbalances.
Yeah, and this is what your huddle is all about. So a huddle is only around 20 minutes, and it's more like a planning meeting than it is fixing anything. So it is easy because it just really follows right through the RAM. So we're gonna briefly go through each step of your huddle.
Yeah, step 1 of a huddle, we're gonna call catch up. So catch up on your busy lives. This really applies the know. You know, are there areas that need to be talked about that have kind of like slipped through the cracks? Are you keeping your regular talk times?
Yeah, so if there's something quick to talk through, then you can do it right in the huddle. But most times you'll need to just identify topics you need to talk about and then set another time to do that.
The second step we'll call patch up. Now this addresses the important bond of your trust. Are there conflicts, misunderstandings? Do you need to patch up anything? Even if they were already resolved, a lot of times it's just good to reaffirm your understanding, to say, I'm sorry again, and to just assure each other that you are forgiven and moved on.
Yeah, and because the trust has to do with what you think of your partner, what you focus on, you know, your attitude towards your partner, you should express what you appreciate about your partner and what they have been doing since the last huddle.
That's a great point.
And then say it to their face. You know, this is how you have blessed me. It's so good to hear these things frequently.
So the first 2 steps kind of look back on your relationship to see how you have been doing, while these next steps look forward. So the third step of the huddle we'll call dream up. And it looks into the ways that you rely on each other for working together, meeting each other's real needs and wants, how to be a connoisseur, as we said. We provided a top 10 list, encouraged you to make your own top 10 list and to use those in your huddle to review what you've been doing well and what you want to do that maybe you haven't had time to do or opportunity. Or maybe there's been things that you have been doing but you just want more of. So dream up some things to do together to meet each other's needs and wants and interests.
The fourth step of your huddle is called backup, and it looks at your calendars. What things are coming up and how can you best support each other through those things? It is the strengthening the practical side of your commitment. And finally, the fifth step of a huddle is called build up. And this has you think specifically about your physical relationship. How are you showing your love and affection, and how are you doing in your sexual intimacy? Even though some of this was talked through in Dream Up, your physical and sexual closeness is so very important, and it's good to really be comfortable talking openly about this area of your relationship.
Build up also means that before you end a huddle, you express your love and words and an affection. You give a hug, something a little longer than 2 seconds, maybe a kiss, something that seals your bond, because we want your huddles to be positive. If your huddle goes too long, or if it turns negative, you're not going to keep having huddles. So because you never achieve a perfect lasting balance, a balance of staying in the know or meeting each other's needs or having a good attitude or really of any of these areas, because of that, your approach to every huddle should be with the expectation something is not being done. There's something missing, something is lacking. This will help to lower your defensiveness. It will help to normalize something more is needed. We're having a planning meeting to determine it, see it, and build up our relationship.
I mean, yeah, this is so often a trigger for arguments and hurt feelings. You know, I thought you were happy with what I did for you. I guess I'm not doing a good job. So if you have this expectation that something is always going to be a little bit missing, then it can help to really diffuse some of those arguments.
Absolutely. Anybody that's like sailed a boat and trimmed the sails, or an airplane, we have a good friend that flies planes and he talks about trimming his plane, or just when you're driving your car, you know that when you steer, making small adjustments and realignments keeps you on course. Your relationship huddle is that planning time for making those small adjustments. And it will keep the bonds of your relationship strong while greatly impacting the trajectory of your relationship over time.